Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to see you for another session of Strong Start Sundays. If you wouldn't mind, put your name in the chat and tell me where you are watching from. I'm really excited to get into this conversation tonight about ways that we can meaningfully engage our families throughout the school year, but definitely right now as our school year is getting started. So please take a moment and let me know who you are and where you're joining from. Now, I'm also going to be dropping a link to our new book, Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. You'll hear me reference this book. It is our new book with Dr. Brad Johnson, and I'm really excited to share it with you. We're loving the positive feedback about the book. We really wrote this book for school leaders and for educators to help us continue to develop positive relationships with the staff that we serve, with our teachers, with our students, and definitely with our families. So tonight's session is really relevant to a lot of the concepts that are in our book, but also just going to have some additional information and some more ideas for us to consider as we are engaging our families. So again, put your name in the chat. Let us know where you are coming from and what your role is. So I want to start off this session with a little bit of a serious note. I want to share with you that one of our colleagues experienced a heart attack on Friday after school. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I want us to be cognizant of our health. Nothing is more important than our health. And you hear me talking a lot about boundaries. You hear me talking a lot about taking care of ourselves first so that we can take care of other people. But this one hits home. This is my friend. This is our colleague. And so she's recovering. She's doing well. Thank goodness she survived this. She had a 99% blockage. She had come home from work on Friday. Like many of us, we were tired. We're feeling a little bit exhausted, but she knew something wasn't right. She was really struggling. And so thank goodness she had the presence of mind to make that call to 911, because I truly believe that that saved her life. So I just want to share with you that remember to take care of yourselves. We can't say that enough. We say it in theory, but when it hits home, that's a wake-up call for all of us. So I just encourage you to eat your meals, check your blood pressure, get your rest, take a day off or two if you need one. It truly might save your life, and encourage your colleagues to do the same. You know, we have to take care of each other. We have to be able to take care of ourselves so that we can serve each other in the best way possible. So check in with your colleagues, check in with your teacher friends, check in with your principal and AP and leadership friends, because you just never know. You never know what someone may be needing. So I just wanted to do that and just to share where I am mentally right now, because it's been hard. It's been a hard couple of days, but I'm just grateful that we're all here together. So thank you again for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're really going to be talking about ways that we can engage families meaningfully. And we know we really can't accomplish everything we need to do for students until we have their parents' support behind us. And, you know, working together with parents and families is critically important. One of the things that I like to always think about is understanding that families are coming to us with a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different needs. And as school leaders and as teachers, we really have to individualize that and understand that people are going to be coming to us with very different experiences. And I like to start off tonight with a story from when I was a first-year teacher in kindergarten. So my first year of teaching, I remember I started in the middle of the school year. And if you have ever been someone who has taken over a classroom in the middle of the school year, you know that that is a hard lift to do, because you didn't start off with the families, you didn't start off with the students, but you really want to build that trust and rapport right away. And so when you're starting kind of in the middle of the year, you have a very short window of time to do that successfully. And I remember the time of year that I came in was right around parent-teacher conferences. And this was going to be my first time holding conferences. And I was so excited to set these up with the families. And, one of my well-meaning colleagues came over to me and we looked at the class list, and I was getting ready to start calling families and setting it up. And she said, this one family, they never come to conferences. You might as well skip over them because they're not going to show up. I had the older brother and mom is not involved. And I remember listening to my colleague. I know it was well-meaning, but something just didn't sit right with me that she had never come to anything. And why? That was my question, was why? So instead of writing off the family, this parent, I simply picked up the phone. I said, "Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm your child's new teacher. I'm really enjoying getting to know him. We have conferences coming up, and I'd love for you to come." And she said, "I would really like to come, but really I haven't been to any conferences before." And I said, "Well, we would love to have you. Why haven't you come to any conferences? Is something stopping you?" And she said, "Actually, yes. I don't have a car. I have no way to get to the conferences." Now, of course, this was 20 years ago. So this is before we were having some of these virtual conferences that we're all familiar with now, kind of post the pandemic. But 20 years ago, we were having in-person conferences. And so I said, "Okay, I understand that that's a barrier. Let me talk with my principal and see what's possible." So I went to my principal. Again, my first couple of weeks on the job, I went to my principal. I said, "Hey, I really want this family to come to, this mom to come to the conference, but she said transportation is something she doesn't have. So is there a way we can help her?" And my principal said, "We could try to send her a taxi, but I have to have confirmation that she's going to come because we have to use school funds to pay for it." I said, "Okay, I will talk with mom and see if she can make this." So I got back on the phone with mom. I said, "Hey, our principal's going to work it out so that you can have a taxi come to take you. You can come to his conference and his big brother's conference, and then we will send you back home on a taxi." And don't you know, we were able to get mom to that conference and her other son's conference and back home. And we really developed a really positive relationship with that family so that moving forward, we knew what she needed and we were able to meet that need. So she didn't miss any future meetings. And I like to go back to that as I'm thinking about my work now as a principal, because even though 20 years ago I was a new teacher, my philosophy is still the same. We have to meet families where they are. We have to talk and communicate with families so that we find out what they need. And then we have to try to figure out how we can break down some of those barriers so that our families get that full opportunity to participate. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you had any situations like this before where you've done that sort of outreach with the family and then learned something new? Because that really motivated me moving forward. It really inspired me as a new teacher to say, our families want to be involved. Our parents want to be involved, but there may be some things that are holding them back. We just have to take the time to listen and help problem solve around them. And I'm always thankful for my former principal. She could have easily said, "No, we don't have the funds. We're not doing it." But she didn't. She was collaborative and she really trusted that we could get this family in the building because that's what we needed to do. So I'm thankful for her leadership and helping me to understand how we can work together to really find solutions for our families. So I want to start talking about really 3 strategies that we can focus on to support families in a very meaningful way. The first one I want to share is talking about consistent and purposeful communication. One of the things that I do in my school community, and we all have newsletters, but I wanted to send them more on a regular and consistent basis because that's a way to build trust with families. When families know they can expect to hear communication from us on a consistent basis, then that helps to build trust with them. They know they're not missing any information. There's nothing worse than having families who don't know what's going on in your school, or there's a lot of confusion around, "I didn't get this message," or "Where can I find it?" So one of the first things that I did was having a newsletter out every Friday at 8:30. I set it, I schedule it, I talk with our PTA and I say, hey, if you need any information to go in this week's newsletter, I need it Wednesday by noon. They know to get me that information so I can start compiling it and have it all auto scheduled for our families on Friday morning at 8:30. So that's been really good to have that consistent communication. And in that communication, I'm listing not only school and county events, but I'm also listing all the PTA things and family engagement activities that our families can take part in, because we want our families to know that they are a valued part of our school. So if you don't have a consistent communication yet, I'm going to encourage you to start. It's still early in the year. You still have time to do that and to put that into place. Another thing is using multiple channels to communicate. And this is something that we talk about in our book, and something that I've learned really the value of. It's not enough to send an email. You know, there was a time when you could send an email and families would reasonably read the emails and kind of know what's happening. But it's different now because we are all inundated with emails, especially if you have children like me. I have children in the school system. I get emails from multiple schools. It is a lot of information. It's very much information overload. And so one of the things that I have learned to do is to vary the type of communication that we're sharing with families. And here's an example. Over the summertime, I like to send a video message out to families just introducing myself. Hello, I'm Dr. Edoho-Eket. I'm really excited to see you later this summer. How's your summer been going? Here's what I've been doing. What have you been doing? That sort of thing. And we send that out via a text message. So they get a text message just to a YouTube link. And it was a great way to introduce myself to the community last year as I was new. And then over the summertime this year, we had our former assistant principal retire. So we had a new assistant principal. So we filmed the video together and then we sent that out. And that was really nice for our families to get to know and see the new assistant principal, and for us to do a little summer check-in. So the videos can be very, very powerful for families. And the good thing about the videos is that you can also change the captions so that they're in a different language. So we have families who speak a lot of different languages. So if you're sending it out in English and you're speaking, then they can change the captions and still get the information. So I also recommend that you try to send text messages, videos, in addition to your standard newsletters and your emails, because I think varying the communication really meets different families' needs depending on their style, their preferred style of communication. And of course, we can't forget about phone calls. We know that some families are really good with phone calls. I have some families that will not respond to text messages, but they will respond to phone calls. So this is a process of learning what our families need, and understanding one size fits all does not really work. And so if we can think about ways to be simple in our communication, but to vary how we're doing it, I definitely encourage you to do that. Another thing is, I started doing my newsletters in Google Docs. And when you do that, you can easily take your entire document and go to tools, translate it, and it'll put it into any other language that you need. It starts a brand new document. And I just link the language at the top, and then families can click off to see the version that's easiest for them to read. So that's another tip I wanted to share with you because it's free and it's simple. Another tool that we use to communicate in our school is called Talking Points. Talking Points is just an amazing tool because families can sign up for it. They can sign up via an app, or they can do it on their email or they can go straight through their phones. And it allows us teachers to communicate with families in any language just by a click of a button. So if you know the language that your students speak or your families speak, Talking Points is a free tool to use. So if you haven't heard of Talking Points, definitely look it up. It is free for teachers to use. So I encourage you to try to use that tool, see how you like it. We've made a lot of traction this year with Talking Points and attendance, just reminding families, hey, there's an early closing today, or school is closed tomorrow, or we're really excited to see you tomorrow. We have a special celebration happening. School starts at this time. We'll see you soon. All of those touch points really help support our families and getting their students in. So I'd love to again hear in the comments what's been happening with you. How do you like to communicate with families? Just thinking that through, because we all have great ideas to share, and what's happening well in your schools. Let's share that out. The next strategy I want to talk about is really about feedback. And this is a big one. You all hear me talk about feedback a lot. You know that I survey my staff about how I'm performing as a leader, how our administrative team is performing, but we also want to survey our families to find out how we're doing as a school. And there's lots of different ways that we can receive feedback. So I want to share a couple of ideas that we've done in our building. One of the easiest things that we've done is during our PTA meetings, just having space for families to share what their perspective is of how we're doing. And that gives us kind of that immediate feedback right away to take some information down and then come up with a response. So last year at our school, there was a need from our families to have more volunteering opportunities. And so when we were talking with our families about this, they said, we really want to be involved, but we don't really know what all of the options are. We don't really know what teachers need. So we went through the process first of surveying our staff to say, we know we need parents in our building and involved. What would be most beneficial for you? So first I started with our staff, and then I took that list back to families in our PTA to say, here's what we need. How can we fill this need? And so one of the needs that came up was pretty simple. We needed help during lunchtime. We needed extra hands in the building to help us as our students were learning how to open, especially our kindergartners and some of the younger kids. And so we went back to the PTA and said, hey, can you make us a monthly sign-up genius that will give 2 slots each grade level so that our parents who want to come in and volunteer and have time to do that have an opportunity to help? You know, that simple thing has been a big hit in our school this year, just having families coming in, and it's been a help to our staff as well. So sometimes really just taking feedback about what is needed and then bringing it back to families is very helpful. And it's also 2 ways. So another thing that I've done in the past is having those coffee chats with families. We've done them during the school day, but we also know their needs sometimes after school, where families will need to come in the evening. So we've also done it after school hours, where we'll talk about just in general, how's the school year going? How are your students feeling about school? What are some things that you need that we can do? And again, taking the notes, not just listening, but following up with actions is how we can really kick in that feedback. It's not just about the active listening part, but we need to start making some moves after the fact so that our families know that their input is not only heard, but that it's valued and that we're going to do something about it. And of course, there are going to be times when some families might want something that we're not able to accommodate, but we still will communicate that. We'll communicate, I love this idea. We're not quite there yet, but here's something we can try in the meantime. So that's all a part of relational intelligence. I'm going to give another plug for our book. We talk a lot about communication in this book and examples of how you can have some of those hard conversations, of how you can negotiate with people, how you can hold a relationship with someone while still, holding true to the values of yourself and your school. So I want to just lift up that book again, because we do talk a lot about communication, and really all of the centers on communication. I also want to talk about bringing resources to families. This is a big one because, again, first we would need to find out what our families need. And I always caution people about making assumptions about what a family needs. You truly don't know what someone needs until you take time to ask them and you listen. There's nothing worse than telling someone what they need and them not needing that. So one of the things that we have done that's been a really good service this year is we have partnered with our community centers. We have a dental clinic that comes to our building once or twice a year. And it's been an amazing resource for families because they don't have to take their children out of school to get cleaning or to fill simple cavities. They keep the kids in school. We just have like a release form that they sign, and they're able to get that care on the spot. There's a lot of things going on, that funding sources are changing. We're all feeling the pinch, but we know the needs are still there. So we have to get creative as leaders and as teachers with who are the businesses in our community, who are the people who have some funds that may be able to donate. We have gone so far as to having restaurant nights and having restaurants donating food for our PTA events, donating food for our teachers and staff and families who need it. We've done coat drives this year. We really need to get to a place where we are maximizing what we do have. It's very easy to sit back and say, there's no money for that, we can't do it. But that's really not in service up to the best of our ability. So I encourage you to start talking to your community members who can offer services that your families can take advantage of. And even if you can't, find everything that's met, you can at least begin to make a resource bank for families. So on our school website, we have a section that is just family resources. And we really try to keep everything in one place so that families know where to go. And we reference that in our newsletter to say, here are all the references or resources that you have that can be beneficial to you. So one example is all of our back to school nights are on the same linked page. They can go straight on the website. If someone missed it, they can watch the replay, or they can download the presentation. So we really just want to make things easier for our families to the best of our ability. So again, I want to go to the comments and just share a couple of things that you're able to do that has been helpful to your school community, because we know the needs are there. Again, the needs are there. And I think that we do have community resources that we can tap into. Sometimes it's a simple ask. Now, you might ask someone, and the answer may be no, but the answer could be yes. So if the answer is no, you might as well ask for it. You never know what you may be able to receive, but you have to ask. So I definitely encourage you to do that. Another thing that we've done is reaching out to our local library. The library has a ton of community resources. And the first thing that we like to do is connect families to getting their cards. That's something that our school district does starting from kindergarten. We sign up all of our kindergarten students into the library system so that they can check out books. But the library has so many more resources than just books. So I encourage schools to go to your local library and figure out what partnerships may be able to be tapped into. I know for us at our previous school, I remember we didn't have a certain level text reader that we needed for first grade. So our thought was, instead of using money that we didn't have to buy new books, we simply called the library and said, hey, here's what our needs are. Can you gather this level of text readers for us? And we will come and pick it up. And we ended up with 50 books by the end of the week that our teachers could use. Our teachers used them in class. The students didn't take them home, but the teachers kept them in class. And so we were still able to provide what the students need for free. So a lot of the community engagement really is thinking creatively about who we can tap into, definitely using our community resources for the benefit of our schools and for our families. Just doing a time check, I can't believe we have only about 5 minutes left, but I do want to talk a little bit about challenging families, because we're all going to be challenged at times with families who either have had some maybe a poor experience with school, or maybe an experience before you even got there that you're not aware of, but it's a dynamic that you have to manage around. And so I want to share this with you, because I think each of us have been in a position before where we are managing a family where we're trying to build that trust and to build that rapport. And one of the things that I found to be very successful with families like this is to invite them in, invite them into the school, not just to your office, right? Because sometimes coming into the principal's office can be very intimidating. It can be kind of like a power over. And so we don't want to create that sort of environment, but inviting families into the classroom. You know, I have had so many amazing conversations when I just say to families, why don't you come into the classroom? I'll sit in with you for an hour. And, you know, during that time, they're observing their children, they're looking at the awesome instruction that's happening, but it's also a time for you to connect one-on-one with a family. And I've just had amazing conversations with families one-on-one during that time. I might share something a little bit about my family, or I might say, you know, when my twins were this age, here's some things that I did at home to help them. And you just begin to build that trust. So if you're in a position where you are managing around a family that may be challenging, or that may, just be presenting some distrust, I encourage you to invite them into the school, invite them to volunteer, invite them to see the wonderful work that's going on in your rooms and in your classes, so that they continue to build that trust. I see some awesome comments. One from Dr. Porter. I love that, Dr. Porter, that you have a lot of faith-based partnerships. I do know a lot of schools do rely on churches for additional supports. I think that's amazing. That's also another way that you can pull in additional people. In fact, years ago, and I'm so glad you brought this up, Dr. Porter, years ago, I remember one of my previous schools actually worked with a church to do a mentoring program. So that was amazing. So you're actually bringing in more community members to support the students in the school. So definitely thinking broader, thinking more broadly about who's in your community and who can help. That's where we are right now. And honestly, I don't see that changing anytime soon. We really need to tap into the wonderful resources and not just keep it all school-based, because it's limiting. But when we open up to the community, we hear some great ideas. We also, what I would encourage you to ask your families, hey, who has a business? Who has ideas that we can use for these events? Who has resources for us? That's really important too, because you're going to get some great new ideas and ways to continue to engage the community. I know some communities that are engaging grandparents coming in to read to students. All of those things are a part of what's going to make our children successful. The truth is, we can't do it alone, and we should not attempt to. And really coming back full circle to that first conversation when I opened up talking about my colleague who just suffered that massive heart attack, that's our conversation now. We cannot do this work alone. The work is too massive. We have to work with each other collectively to be at our best and to support our students as best as we can, and to support our teachers and our staff. We have just a minute left, so I want to give one final plug to our book, Relational Intelligence, The Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. There are amazing, amazing tips in this book. Again, nothing that's going to break the bank, because we don't have money anyway. So these are things that you can do that are tried and true, that work well. We have some great new ideas. We have some tried and true ideas, but we have some new ideas too. So I want to encourage you to pick up a copy of Relational Intelligence. The link is in the bio, but it's also on the screen, teachergoals.com/intelligence. I also want to give you a preview of our next two sessions in October. October 5th, mark your calendars. We are going to be talking about mid-fall momentum boosting staff morale. You know, hey, we all know how it works. We start the school year like this, and we start to go like that. So we're going to help you with that process and thinking through how we can share some staff morale boosters. And then mark your calendars again for October 19th. October 19th, we're going to be talking about staying joyful on the job. You all know joy is my thing. And so I want us to all remain in a good spirit, good mind, good, healthy all those wonderful things that come along with joy. So we're going to be talking about ways to infuse joy, especially during that time in October, because October is hard. October has a lot going on, and so does November. We know how the fall is. So I want to thank you again for joining me tonight. I want to thank Teacher Goals for having me on this amazing platform to talk about things that school leaders, that educators, things that are relevant to us right now. Thank you again to everyone on the call, and I look forward to seeing you October 5th and October 19th at 7 p.m. right here on Teacher Goals. Have a great night and a wonderful week ahead.